Hey guys, welcome to another commentary done by Diggity. Bottom left-hand corner we have Ratti starting as the blue Protoss. Upper left-hand corner we have Neoko starting as the orange Protoss. This is going to once again be on Radion, big macro map. And I gotta say, being a large macro map, I'm not sure I like Ratti's chances in this because Neoko's macro, in all of the matches I've seen Neoko play up to this stage, he hasn't been victorious across the board, but in every single match, he's put himself in a pretty good situation. But on top of that, his macro has just been fantastically on point. Even in situations where you would expect a lot of chaos in the early game and the build order should depict that he has a lower worker count than his opponent, he still, in many of those situations, still had heftier worker counts than his opposition, which has been a sight to behold. Looks like Ratti may be thinking about, so it's possible we're going to see a single gateway pseudo proxy pressure play out of this, but much more likely we are potentially going to see a quick nexus grab, which is very unusual in PvP and very difficult to execute. I will say, even if you do manage to pull it off in the early game unscouted, many times the follow-up options are challenging to contend with. I think my favorite version of contending with it is a mass shuttle drop that I recommend going back into the Fighting Spirit Mania archives and checking out DeWalt versus Boneth for that particular series. That was a kick to watch. But yeah, we are seeing minerals stack up, which suggests we're going to see a 12 Nexus or something similar from Ratti, bottom left. Cross map scout currently for Neoko. We'll see if never mind, going mid map just to check for proxies and going to check top right. So as far as macro battle challenges, we'll see how Neoko's able to adjust at a severe economic deficit to start. The one thing with going 12 Nexus in this is it does put you at it. So while you get a big economic boost, what it does do as far as a turnaround is it puts you at a severe technological deficit, which means oftentimes you either need to get a forge as far as a follow-up or oftentimes go for a quick 2-gate and try to defend. Usually forge is almost necessary, unless your opponent's doing something crazy like 1 gate and to expand themselves, depending on. But we do have double scout making its way out for Ratti right this second. Probe, unfortunately, is going to be coming out because of the mid map scouting from Neoko. He's going to come out very, very late to spot this. Right now, it has the cybernetic score and the initial zealot queued up. The zealot will be at least in position on the ramp to go ahead and deny information. And Neoko effectively scouting as late, basically scouting this as the cannon is halfway finished. That will be his entry point into seeing this. Probe for Ratti, this is at least, oh, never mind. I was going to say small mercy that the zealot potentially could blockade, but instead the full scout going to be executed as well, bottom left. So Neoko able to get in, at the very least underneath, is going to see a, looks like forged single gateway rather than double gateway, and the simulator alongside. Neoko immediately dropping a robotics facility before range. He's going to go ahead and let Ratti see it. He needs to get rid of that probe as quickly as possible. The less information you give to your opponent, the better. And so you can see the scramble from Neoko to try to focus this probe down. You can see Ratti doing a great job, actually, of yakety-saxing this probe in top left. The Zealot's now holding that position. The longer this probe sits here to garner information, the better Ratti's information. Is he gonna get out with that probe? Neoko's got that probe. Okay, yeah, vicious probe on probe violence. That is what we root for. We're a fascist state. As far as a follow-up here, we like seeing the worker class fight. Nexus dropping after robotics, by the way, so it looks like Neoko opting for a macro follow-up, hoping once that information has been denied that there will be an overcommitment of cannons. We are not, what is it? True capitalists in the midst of this. Let the workers fight. Anyway, we do have a probe sitting mid-map for Ratti that could get some follow-up information. There is a single Dragoon towards the front. A second Dragoon is queued up. He should be able to queue that up. We have the robotic support bay also in the midst of this to try to glean some additional scouting information. One advantage for Neoko is he doesn't have to go observer here because he's got full eyes on everything. The Dragoons have been heavily delayed. Just 2 cannons out on the front. But that probe sneaking in for Ratti is able to confirm the natural expansion is in production, which cuts out a lot of things as far as concerns. So where Neoko has a good amount of, and by the way, I want to point out again what I said earlier. So this was, keep in mind, Ratty's had these 2 bases up for a considerable period of time. But look at the probe count. It's honestly not as large a differential as you would expect given the timing with the Nexus. That being said, Neoko's still definitely economically behind that. Probe's finally taking hits, trying to do with the last second thing what it can. Heroic death. Second Nexus now up for Neoko. Probe's already transferring. And at the end of this is 4 workers down, which is not as bad as you would expect it to be. Already queuing up shuttle speed, so, and that is before the Reaver is queued up, so definitely wants to try to get dives out on the front. Some defensive spotting pylons out to the corners already for Ratti to try to glean that information. One thing, and Ratti is going to go ahead and grab his robotics. +1 weapons queued up a little bit earlier. If you have that forge, you might as well utilize it. And we got 2 probes out on the map again. Is Ratti going to go for a greedy third? That could be a disastrous turnaround. I think he's just going to scout to make sure. So he's got one probe, I think, looking for potential move outs. He could hold this probe out to the 9 o'clock here and see this would be a great position to see the shuttle as it's coming across, and then use this probe just to make sure no additional Nexus has been dropped out somewhere hidden on the map. I think that is the purpose of that probe right this second. Make absolutely sure that your opponent hasn't snuck anything, unless he is holding this probe here at the 6 o'clock. He goes for that greedy third base. That would be extreme greed. Range finally queued up, by the way, here for Neoko. Is going to wait, I believe, for that shuttle speed. He's got the Reaver holding on the ramp just in case there was a move out. 4th gateway coming online for Ratti right this second, and should be able to surge as far as raw tech and production at this stage. But Neoko, again, within 3 workers. Shield battery drops, so Neoko, covering all his bases, wants to make sure if he draws this Reaver off after shuttle speed that it doesn't get run over potentially, and can rely on a second Reaver coming off the line to defend in the midst of this. Pylon at the 6 o'clock location, a pylon defensively and spottingly at the 9 o'clock location. Spottingly, is that a verb? Work on my commentator skills after all this time. Supply counts are dangerously close. Surprisingly close, given the early stages of this match. Looking for that Reaver and shuttle to break off. It looks like they have been, yeah, they've been spotted along the way, unfortunately. Nice spotting. The Dragoons making the way across in kind, so Ratti very likely prepared. And we have additional Dragoons boxing in the shuttle on location, so turning around, and might be a dead shuttle here. Nice play from Ratti. Oh, that was a huge, huge kill. Pylon also going up at the 12 o'clock, limiting the options here for Neoko. Ratti playing this perfectly, honestly, as far as a follow-up. That was great, great play. +1 weapons is finished, by the way. So not only is he up in supply, not only does he have a stronger economy, he also has a stronger attack force. And it looks like he's already dropping cannons at the 6 o'clock to potentially grab a Nexus. Observer along the corner, see if it moves out. The Observer is going to be dismayed. As one, it's going to be able to see all these Dragoons making their way forward, but also is going to be able to confirm +1 weapons. The Reaver should, and the shield battery should be sufficient to hold, but Neoko's not coming out of his base anytime soon. Supply counts fairly close. Actually, I think the army about even overall, but Ratti is still holding that economic lead. The Observer making its way across to gauge the situation. 6 gateways. And Ratti going for some pot shots, eating a good chunk of damage right there, however, losing a Dragoon for his efforts. Is staging to potentially grab the 6 o'clock very, very early. And has backed his Dragoons out. The Observer walking its way in and noticing a 7 gateway count. I wouldn't be shocked to see Neoko pop that up to 8, honestly, given the situation. And Neoko has paused on worker production right this second and is gearing up for more pure gateway. We see, yeah, and I was about to say, I was waiting to see if there's going to be a Citadel of Adun and +1 weapons with the Forge queue up, maybe to get Zealot leg speed. In the meantime, though, Psy Storm being upgraded for Neoko, which is a huge, huge shift in PvP. Probe also scouting top right. So right now, Neoko heavily boxed in, down economically, down in army, down in upgrades, down in tech. If he's just going to have some amazing micro, and he's going to have to wait. If he's going to have a shot, he's going to have to wait on Zealot leg speed. He's actually, as far as raw army, ahead though. So might have a shot, but the +1 weapons very likely will negate that, and the Side Storm, if it is a factor, certainly will. Probe sidling out. Is he going to drop that third Nexus at the... I'm surprised he's dropping it at the 3 o'clock rather than the 6 o'clock location. Ratti spreading out and continuing to macro, while Neoko sitting on the 2 bases. This is almost... It feels like the turning point will likely be when Zealot leg speed finishes. That will be when we see the army of Neoko crash out towards Ratti's holding army. Ratti just occupying mid-space. A lot of High Templar in the midst. I like that he's got at least the High Templar staggered back a bit. So grabbing the 6 o'clock. Is he just going to grab 2 bases heads up? That would be a little bit nuts. That would be a little bit risky. He's got that probe hanging out there, which makes me raise an eyebrow, I will say. They say, you know, when you get ahead, get further ahead, but that might be a little bit extreme. 3 viewers out in the field, but only 1 shuttle for Neoko. Zealot leg speed just about to finish. Doesn't look like he's going to wait for +1 weapons. The observer is going to get picked off, and you can see Ratti starting to engage his army, encapsulated. I think he maybe looking for a free Side Storm, respreading it back out. The observer continuing to make its way forward. He's going to be able to confirm the Citadel of Adun. Engagement, the High Templar are a little bit spread out, and we don't see Side Storm yet. Good Side Storms now blanketing a lot of those Dragoons. Certainly going to soften them up, and we got +1 up and +1 armor, by the way, in the midst of this. But the Reaver's getting a lot of good shots out, and the Zealot's occupying a lot of this attack force. So Neoko, despite eating a lot of the Side Storm early, and despite Ratti having the superior upgrades, the Reavers being uncontested, and now High Templar in flight, dropping emergency Side Storm on retreat. That being said, Ratti's nowhere near out of this, but at a sudden supply deficit. The Zealots did a lot of work there. Pylon being dropped 12 o'clock, Neoko potentially opening up a 3rd, looking to get aggressive. Probes getting caught on transfer. Few of them losing their lives. And Ratti bunched up at the 12 o'clock location. Neoko's not going to find anything there. Second shuttle has now joined the fray with that 3rd Reaver. Zealots clearing out that pylon at the 12 o'clock. Neoko all of a sudden with a massive worker, or I should say a massive supply lead. And I don't think Ratti's in a position where he can break out against this. Shocking turn of events. Might be able to grab that 12 o'clock and turn this around, especially if the shuttle dives and is able to get underneath this probe line, either at the natural. So we're going to widen the view so we can see both locations at once. 6 o'clock moving in, the Reavers, the probe's flooding, and yeah, now we see that shuttle making its way around. Try to keep eyes on both locations. So Reaver dropping there, attack right there. Is it going to be a dud? No, getting a lot of hits. So all of a sudden, Neoko able to completely swing this around. Gonna wipe out a Dragoon. Ratti doesn't see it, and he's gonna end up losing everything at the 3 o'clock location. It's a testament to having those bases up earlier, though. Was able to strike a lot of damage. Emergency Dark Templar being built, but the natural expansion completely breached. The Reaver walking into the natural, and now all of a sudden, Neoko has the worker lead. After 2 major strikes, and Ratti, again, despite having the armor upgrade advantage, not able to evict the troops at his natural expansion. Dark Templar getting a lot of damage done on a lone Zealot. Robotics is wiped out. It looks like that Forge is going to drop as well. The shuttle's going to escape with the Reaver in tow, and all of a sudden, things have completely flipped. Ratti redrawing the workers back to the natural expansion in a completely unprecedented turn of events. Neoko now getting that 12 o'clock base up. Positioning an army for Dark Templar in hot pursuit. No observer alongside. That Dark Templar could get a good amount of probe kills, depending on positioning here. Looks like Neoko trying to draw it away, is successfully drawing it away to allow the workers across. Ratti, that should give Ratti forewarning at least that 12 o'clock base is in operation, and unfortunately not babysitting that Dark Templar, so it's going to walk into that cannon line. and summarily be painsticked to death by those zealots. Ratti resaturating. Fortunately, he has 3 Nexus to quickly resupply the worker count, but he is on the back heel all of a sudden. Stunning change of events. Just 2 fights and a nice Reaver drop and a complete shift. Now it's Neoko running out on the map to go ahead and clear things out. He's in a position where he could grab another quick Nexus, is checking out what would oftentimes be a typical third grab, but not out of the realm. It looks like the Zealot's just going to watch that probe. A bunch of Dragoons are going to just walk forward and swat that. In the interim, nice observer activity from Ratti in the midst of this. But Neoko, honestly, 50 supply away from max. And again, starting to just charge ahead macro-wise. A probe making its way top right. A pylon's there to greet him. I will be interested to see what Ratti's play is. It looks like another pylon going to get taken out bottom right. Pylon claim there, top right. And Ratti redrawing it. See if he can keep the... He's got some decent vision here. Another drop, by the way, at the 6 o'clock. Catching more probes. Oh, I thought that was going to be a dud. And a rescoop from Neoko. There's a cannon waiting for him there at the natural. This should provoke an all-in attack, honestly, from Ratti as far as a turnaround. Counter shuttle. Unfortunately, there aren't a lot of workers to sidestorm at this location. It doesn't look like shuttle speed's upgraded here as well. So that shuttle might get picked off along the corner. Looks like it is able to escape. Is Neoko going to be able to respond rapidly enough? Shuttle hanging out at the 12 o'clock. So we got dueling shuttles here in the void of space. Observers making its way out to try to track down the position. Shuttle redrop here at the 6 o'clock. Reaver this time finally going to be dispatched, but not before claiming a few additional probe lives. Reaver is the tool of the bourgeoisie. Make it political. Everything's political these days. Pylon being cleared out, top right. Cannons being dropped defensively. Neoko scrambling. Is the shuttle... We have some Archons back here. Dragoons are not along those lines, so we might see a massive Sidestorm drop. Ratti going to go ahead and grab his 4th as the main starting to thin out. Looks like he has left some resources in position. It is mined out for Neoko, by the way. And this the 17-minute mark, usually the timer on that. But there's just been an incredible amount of action. Neoko patrolling bottom right to make sure his opponent hasn't snuck anything on him. He's macroed fantastically as far as a turnaround, and we're going to see another large engagement mid-map. And this time we got +2 weapons versus +1 weapon and +1 armor. Sidestorm trying to clear out the Zealots initially. Follow-up Sidestorm. Some Zealots also pinning in from the rear. Dragoons getting blanketed in Sidestorm. Bit of a whip of a Sidestorm as far as a follow-up. But as the dust clears, it looks like Neoko has the overwhelming attack force and is going to be able to clean out what's left. Although he needs to be a little bit careful. It looks like an Archon is going to be able to defend what's left of the Dragoons. So he's left with significant supply. His remacroed instantaneously, and Ratti all of a sudden is at half the supply of his opponent. We do have the shuttle as an X factor that could go for a suicide dive here at the 12 o'clock location. Might also get a suicide dive out top right. Makes its way in. Zealot dropped. Sidestorm catching a few workers. I think Ratti was hoping something better of that. The Zealot able to at least smack the High Templar. Zealot making his way in, faring his best against that cannon, able to at least shred the shield. But right now, 2 bases, so we got 2 bases apiece, effectively, as far as the follow-up. And 1 lone shuttle that could potentially create chaos. It looks like we have a storm drop follow-up for Neoko. I'm not even sure when that shuttle snuck out. Again, kind of the just hanging out right this second. Is it gonna get Sidestormed? Yeah, Sidestormed and driven back. That's a first. Get out of here. Trying to follow it up, but we do have some cannons being morphed. And a large army for Neoko starting to group up towards the 9 o'clock. So this is very Sidestormable territory. Unfortunately, Sidestorm picked off observers, but there are no Dark Templar. And the Zealots getting hit, and the probes are making their way across. And if there's focus fire, Neoko could wipe this base out very, very rapidly. Has also dropped into the 6 o'clock. Looks like he was able to clear out the workers there in the midst of that attack. Man, he got a lot of damage done. Yeah, Ratti just losing all of his worker lines, so that is GG. Neoko is going to take game 1 in a wild turnaround. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Thanks for listening.